Well, hello, friends. Father Frank Pavone here, National Director of Priests for Life. Welcome to our program. I am delighted today to welcome Mike Lindell, who you may have seen on television. He heads up MyPillow.com. Michael, thank you so much for being on the program with us today. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to be on your show.
Well, congratulations on your company, and I use a MyPillow myself, and I can only imagine how many people you have helped to get a good night's sleep. And of course, anything and everything else that people do is really affected by how well they sleep. Tell us just in a nutshell how you were blessed by God to have what has become such a successful business.
Well, it goes back. I actually had a dream, and I believe it was directly from God back in 2004, and it took me about a year to invent MyPillow, and finally I did get it invented, and I was turned down everywhere. Nobody would take it. No box stores, no TV. Nobody would take it. And I ended up doing. Someone said, "Mike, why don't you do a kiosk?" I said, "How do you spell that?" And then I did that, and I couldn't talk to people. I was very. I was an addict. I was a crack cocaine addict and a cocaine addict back in the day, and they. Back then, so I didn't do the kiosk very much. My wife at the time did, and we only sold about 80 pillows, but I happened to sell one there. I was there the one day, and the guy said, "You got a business card?" I said, "No, I'm all out." And I gave him this business card, I just wrote my name on a piece of paper, and he called me in January. He said, "This pillow changed my life." He said, "Are you the inventor?" And I said, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, I run the Minneapolis Home and Garden Show. Would you like to come in the shows?" So then I did shows for 5 years, and I lost pretty much everything though during that time. And I ended up, by the grace of God, quitting all my addictions overnight in January 16, 2009, it's been quite a journey. I ended up doing. I said, "Well, if nobody will take us, we'll do an infomercial," and we did it with a real audience and a friend of mine. And I was told it could never work. You have to get an actor and someone that's been on TV. And the night before, the producers, he texted the other guy when we were doing our reads. He said, "This guy's the worst guy I've ever seen. He'll never make it on TV." and now we've sold 44 million pillows. I have 1,600 employees, and it's been absolutely amazing. One of the things too I want to say is, you said it there, how it affects everything we do and help millions of people.
Yeah.
I have been so blessed to be a part of MyPillow that God gave me to put this and chose me to with this amazing platform,
Yes.
which is just a platform for a much bigger thing. But what kept me going all those years, people say, "How can you have this much passion for a pillow 13 years later?" And it was all the people that came up and the stories, and they'd say, "You changed my life. It helped me in everything." Because sleep affects everything we do, quality
Yes.
sleep. And that was so rewarding to me.
Yes.
I was never about the money. I was about helping people, and it felt so good every time.
It does feel good, and you are helping a lot of people. And of course, God helped you, as you mentioned, Mike, coming out of various addictions. And tell us a little bit about that, how He rescued you. And I understand that you're also involved in helping a lot of people through various recovery programs.
Right. Well, back in 2008, a lot of stuff happened in 2008, but one of the things that happened, a friend came to me, and he was my equal. We had both done cocaine at the same time in the early 1980s, and we had both switched to crack cocaine in the early 2000s. So he was my equal. I'd been in a lot of treatment centers and stuff, and if you don't. The counselors that have never been where I've been, it didn't resonate. Well, he came to me. He had been straight for 3 years, and I had heard he had found Jesus, and he came in, and some month before I quit now, and he came walking in this place. I lost everything, and he came walking in. He says, I said, "Dick, what are you doing here?" He says, "Well, the Lord led me here." He said, "What's going on?" And I knew I hadn't seen him in about a year, but I knew he had been straight for 3 years. And I said, well, as long as you're here, I got a lot of questions for you. And the first one I asked him, I said, is it boring? And he said, no, man, it's not boring. But using that premise, and then a month later, I actually, I made a deal with God. I quit. I said, I want to wake up in the morning and never have the desires again, which I did. And that was the last day. I never had a desire for any of the drugs, alcohol, gambling, anything again. But 2 months after that, I went to my church, and they had a faith-based treatment center there, an outpatient. And I went in there, and I told this guy, this counselor, I said, I just walked in the door. I said, I said, I'm going to have a book someday, and this pillow is a platform for God. It's going to be so big, and I'm going to I'm going to help people someday. So many people I'm going to help with their addictions, it was so out there. He went home and told his wife. He says, I think this guy's still on drugs. But one of the things I learned when I went in his program, it was different than anything I'd ever been in. When I went in, I started telling about all my cocaine and crack and stuff. He goes, no, we don't want to hear about that here. He says, we want to talk about your father. He said, let's go. Tell us about your father. And I said, well, I came from a divorced, family. I was 7 years old back when divorces weren't common. And I learned so much of addiction takes place when you're young in childhood. It's from divorce, fatherlessness, all these things. So I've combined with what I know. I'm coming out with the Lindell Recovery Network. And what it is you will put in your story. We have all these stories of hope, the people that made it through specific to that drug. So now I'll be the tour guide of the website, and I'll say, okay, put in your age and your addiction. That person will put in, let's say, 22-year-old opiate addict. Well, now all these stories of 22-year-old opiate addicts will come down that made it through.
Yes.
And he might not be able to relate to a 50-year-old meth addict. So you got that common denominator there. Then you got the trust. The addict trusts me, that he trusts these stories. And I say, hey, you guys, now go over here. I have vetted over the past year and a half over 2,000 faith-based treatment centers that actually work, and where you get you go in there, and I'm going to say, you guys, when you come out, I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to have paid mentors all over the country, full-time careers. That's all they do is mentor these guys, and an app. So they'll put in like something specific that happens that normal people, normally you might relapse. My girlfriend didn't wait for me. Well, put it in the app, and someone that's been through that, one of these mentors that's been through that, will get you through it. And then you also have your regular mentor, but it's an amazing circle of help. You have hope, you have the help, and then you have the mentorship. It's going to be amazing.
That is awesome. It's really such an expression of God's love for us, and to have a Savior. I mean, He saves us when we can't save ourselves, and you're helping to reach these people with that kind of saving help. Now, of course, another arena where people are really getting damaged and where a lot of recovery is needed is the whole area of abortion. And those of us in the pro-life movement are so grateful to you for having gotten behind this new movie, Unplanned. I've known Abby for a long time. She came to me after she came out of the abortion industry, and we worked to get her healing and to start healing all the different people that were coming out of the abortion industry, especially when they heard her story. Many others started coming out. And there's a long process of recovery, as you know, for those who have worked in abortion clinics. There's also a lot of recovery needed for those moms and dads and families who have lost children to abortion. And so I think this, providentially ties in very well with the whole spirit and vision that God has given to you, because now this movie is going to bring a lot of people face to face with their own need for recovery after abortion. Tell us, Mike, how it was that you ended up getting involved in backing the movie Unplanned.
Well, that was a divine appointment. I was literally on a tarmac waiting to go to Israel, and we, my gal and I, Kendra, we said, I got this phone call, and I had met these guys before, these producers, but they called me up. They said, Mike, we've gotten prayer that you're going to be in our movie. And I'm going, well, I haven't got that yet. And they said that, and they didn't even ask for any funds or anything. I said, you know what? And I said, well, do you need money too? And they said, well, we're looking for funds, but God has showed us you're going to be in it and all this. And well, I said, let me call you back. I got off the phone and we prayed about it. And it was like, yes, you for sure need to do this movie. And so I called him back. I said, yes, I'll be in it. Now that was last spring and a year ago. And if I'd have known, I mean, then we got back from Israel. I had to go down to secret place in Oklahoma. We filmed it, and I had my cameo, and I said, I was all in. I put in $1 million towards the movie. Just it's going to change people's hearts, and get rid of this horrific thing that's going on with abortion. But if I'd have known, if anybody doesn't think this was God's timing, I got in that movie then, and now. Look, it launches here March 29th. I'm going to the premiere this weekend, and I'm telling you, look what's going on in our country with New York and Virginia, and where they're ripping babies from in pieces from even when they're born. Now it's not even the unborn; it's the born.
Right.
I mean, it's just like you couldn't ask for it. God's timing is always the most amazing, and this is really going to get the message to our country, to the people of what's going on. And, how can you, I seen it before. Some gal said, how can you have people saving minnows in California and killing babies in New York?
Right. Yeah, it is. It is amazing. I've always said over the years, America will not reject abortion until America sees abortion. And one of the most powerful dimensions of this movie, Unplanned, as you well know, is that it shows an abortion. It shows how that baby in the womb is trying to resist that suction tube and then gets sucked down the tube. And I have seen over the years how people just change in an instant when they actually see with their eyes. It cuts beyond the rhetoric, the concepts, the arguments, the philosophy, and it goes right to the heart of what is an abortion. And in this film that you have supported and so strongly, and that you even appear in at a certain point, people are going to see abortion, and I know that many are going to reject it. Do you want to tell our viewers the scene that you are actually in the movie? Because it's it's a kind of a triumphant moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's this is part of that true story too, where Abby actually was her clinic she worked at. They actually end up taking down that clinic, and I actually run the bulldozer. And they were going to bring in a stunt man. Let's get this clear. And I said, absolutely not. So I do it myself. I do the scene myself. It's very cool. It was my first part in a movie, and I couldn't have asked for a better thing. I was very that it's going to help change and save so many lives and stop the murdering.
Exactly. Well, you did a great part in that particular scene, and then of course, you turn on that bulldozer, and then the Planned Parenthood sign comes tumbling down. It's to the cheers of all the pro-life people. It's really awesome. The pro-life movement is on the move. We're making a tremendous amount of progress. I see that every day in the work that we do all across the country. People's minds and hearts are changing. People are healing from the wounds. And we're even making progress politically, because right now we have in the White House a man that I know you admire very much, as do I, a man who's been the most pro-life president that we have ever had. Mike, can you tell us a little bit about your own interactions with President Donald Trump?
Well, this goes back to 2000. That was another dream I got from God, that I would see Donald Trump. I didn't know anything about politics, being an ex crack addict, and I didn't know a liberal from a conservative. I certainly know what I am now. But in the summer of 2015, I had a dream that he was that I would be in a room with him, and then he announced his running for president, and And this just came all the way up to all these divine appointments. I can't even say all of them. It was just goes on and on. I have a book coming out, but I was picked out of 12 people to pray with Ben Carson in a room when he was still in the running. But anyway, that all came to fruition one day, and where Donald Trump did reach out to me and said, Mike, this is Donald Trump. Would you meet me in New York City in Trump Tower? And we ended up in that meeting August 15, 2016. I walked in there, it was just him and I. The first thing he asked me, he says, Mike, you always wear your cross. Are you a Christian? And I said, yes, Mr. Trump, and this is a divine appointment. And we talked about the inner cities. We talked about God. We talked about all these things, and all these things he said he was going to do. And I go, wow, this is the most common sense president I've ever seen. He's going to be the greatest president in history. But I did one thing I want listeners to know. I went out and talked to his employees, and every one of them was like talking to one of mine. And I'm telling you, you can tell a lot about the man if you talk to the people that work for him.
Yes.
And he has been everything we talked about. He's the greatest, most pragmatic, common sense president. And I'll tell you, people ask me all the time, is he really like that? I'm going, well, look at all the stuff that's gotten done in spite of all the attacks.
That's right.
And to have someone, we are so blessed to have a president that went over to Israel and went to the Western Wall and prayed for wisdom and discernment from God.
Yes.
I mean, come on. This is, and then to have a pro-life president, and he is, I became friends with him. He is everything. He's like the most down-to-earth, good person. I mean, it's just, and he just keeps in luck. God chose him for such a time as this because he can take it. He can take all these attacks. It's amazing that he can take all these attacks and still he is so protected. I believe God, people that pray for him, people come up to me all the time and they say, Mike, thanks for backing our president. Tell him we're praying for him. I think he has so many people that pray for him for his strength and boy, it works. The guy works 21 hours a day, it seems like.
It does, doesn't it? And I know one of the pastors that ministers to him told me that he never met someone more open to the ways of God and learning more about the Word of God and following the Holy Spirit than President Trump has been doing. So it's really... it's for a time like this when our nation is facing so many threats, not the least of which is this culture of killing babies, as you said, not only in the womb, but even now outside the womb. It's astonishing. Well, Mike, so tell our viewers and our listeners how they can get in contact. You said you have a book coming out, and when is that? When do you expect that will be?
That'll be in September, and it's called from What Are the Odds from Crack Addict to CEO? And that's by the time you read the book, if you don't believe in God, you didn't read it. You better reread it. I mean, it's these miracles. I'm launching the Lindell Recovery Network. You can always just put in my name and go to my website, michaeljlindell.com, and that's going to have all the information there of all the different sites. I'm going to have my Lindell Foundation, where 100% of the money goes to the vet in need, and you get to hear back a difference you made in their lives. I'm launching that. These are all things that I've been blessed that this amazing platform. I've said it a long time ago. MyPillow is just a platform for a much bigger purpose, and God, God gave us grace on back in 2016 with this president, and we have grace where there's a lot of people we need to get saved, and we had 2 paths to go, and it was during this time of grace we need to get a lot of people saved into Jesus.
Well, I really am grateful to your responsiveness to God's leading, His calling, His surprises in our lives. You've had many of those surprises, and I think what you're doing gives an example to so many other business leaders that whether it's our success, our prosperity, it's always a platform for helping people's lives, speaking into the despair that is in so many people's hearts and giving them new hope. your involvement now with the pro-life effort, with this movie. I mean, that I see it all the time. You know, we operate the Rachel's Vineyard, the largest healing ministry in the world for people who have had abortions, and we see this all the time. The hope that comes through the Word of God, and through some really good processes of recovery, long journeys of recovery, but nevertheless, turning despair into hope. You're helping to do that, and every one of us is very grateful to you. So, Mike Lindell, thank you for sharing some of your time and your experiences with us today. Congratulations again on your very successful MyPillow.com, and thanks especially for your support for these babies in the womb. We're going to save them, we're going to have the victory, and we're going to celebrate it together. And we're so happy to have allies just like you. God bless you, Mike.
Well, thank you, and God bless you all. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you.
If abortion is wrong, where do we go to say so? We go into the churches, we go into politics, into the media, into business, into education, and into the streets. Some churches haven't wanted to get involved in political hassles with the government, so they've been silent on abortion. They didn't want to get involved in hassles from the government. They didn't want to take the fight to the government. So now with the HHS mandate, the government took the fight to them. And when it comes to that mandate, we've got a simple message. We will obey God rather than men. As Alveda can tell us, her uncle said one day to the civil rights movement, we've got a lot of obstacles in our way, but we're not going to let anything turn us around. We're not going to let no dogs turn us around, no water hoses turn us around, no police clubs or jail sentences, and we're not going to let any injunctions turn us around. And so today I say to you, in the pro-life movement, no Planned Parenthood is going to turn us around. No biased media is going to turn us around. No HHS mandate is going to turn us around. No Obama administration is going to turn us around.